Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third AEP, Advocacy and Empowerment session. I want us to make sure that we're in seated positions because we're going to start off with a moment to arrive for everybody. This is an opportunity for us to take just a second to breathe, open our minds to the information that's going to be presented, and give you guys a chance to ground yourselves. So if you can, with me, try your best to get your feet to the ground. If you have them crossed, try to make sure that they're planted to the ground. And I would like you guys to allow your eyes to come to a slow close. And as we're closing our eyes, I want everybody in this space to just take a moment to listen to the sounds, listen to your breath, give your mind a chance to just let everything flow. From here, you're going to take a huge, deep breath. Breathe in. Hold that. Exhale. We're going to take 2 more breaths. And within this time frame, I want you guys just to clear your minds as much as you possibly can. Allow all the positive endorphins to enter your body. Give yourselves an opportunity to recognize that today is a new day and you have a chance to make a difference. We're going to take another breath. Hold it to your diaphragm. Exhale. Allow your body to exhale as much as possible. Feel your muscles relax. Let that blood flow. Last breath. Exhale, and as you exhale, you can open your eyes and come back to the group. Thank you very much for joining us in that practice. It's important for us to have an opportunity to get grounded. Some rules of the house that we have. Make sure that you guys do your best to allow time for the speaker that's going to be presenting to cue us for questions. Those that are online and joining us virtually, if you guys have questions, make sure that you post those into the chat. Our technical director will give you guys a cue on when that could be answered. If you guys do not feel comfortable asking those questions, you can post those in the chat, and our technical director will do his best to make sure that he answers the questions when cued. We are here today to talk about Women's Awareness Month. It's really important for us to take time out to provide a space for them to feel heard, feel seen, and empowered. That's what we are going to be spending a lot of our time with. We focus a lot of that in our sickle cell community because we have a lot of women in that particular arena that go through a lot of trials on a day-to-day. We, as an organization, Sickle Cell Anemia Awareness of San Francisco, have several mothers with sickle cell disease that are single mothers. So it's very imperative that we give them an opportunity to feel heard, supported, and loved. We have a special person that's going to be joining us first to start off our presentation. He is a community liaison for Novo Nordisk, one of our partners and collaborators and sponsors for this wonderful event that we have here. I'll introduce him shortly, but I also want to make sure that everybody does their best to know that we want you guys to be mindful to ask questions. We want you guys to be as engaged as you possibly can. Best way for us to have the right conversation today is for you guys to give us that energy. So as you guys are listening to the content, do your best, if you can't remember them, to write things down and be mindful to be ready to ask those because it's going to be very important for us to get that type of dialogue today, okay? All right. Other than that, no need for me to talk anymore. I am going to introduce Dariel Gilder with Novo Nordisk. He has decade-long experience in advocating for underserved communities and creating unique community events to educate and empower people living with sickle cell. Dariel, would you like to join us? Thank you very much, sir.
The Sickle Cell Anemia Awareness of San Francisco for inviting me to this wonderful presentation today. And I am thrilled to be here to celebrate Women's Month, but in particular, Black women's health. And with that being said, first of all, let me give you a little background on myself. I've been in medicine and pharmaceuticals for almost 3 decades now. For over 27, 28 years, I've been in different phases of medicine, but 25 years I've been in the pharmaceutical industry, supporting different disease states. But right now, I am supporting mostly sickle cell disease. I am here representing Novo Nordisk. Novo Nordisk has been in the community for over 100 years. They are the first makers and developers of insulin for diabetes patients. And we have been in the rare blood, rare disease space for over 35 years. And now our new endeavor in the rare disease space is sickle cell anemia and sickle cell disease. So as we know, there are different forms of sickle cell, SC, SS, beta thalassemia, alpha thalassemia. So there are different forms of sickle cell that we can discuss later. But as of right now, we want to talk about taking control of your health, and most importantly, women taking control of their health. Out of my almost 3 decades of being in medicine, in different phases of medicine, I have been in exam rooms with doctors talking to women. I have been in exam rooms when doctors and care providers have been talking to women and their families. And what I've noticed is how they talk differently and approach women in a lot of different situations. And they talk to some of the things I've noticed of talking to women in the health space. They really don't give women the opportunity to be a part of their own health treatment. When I've seen them give other people, men, the opportunity to be a part of their treatment. I've seen them talk, over women and through women as if they don't really comprehend what is going on with them. And I know that they do. So I see this changing now, but I want to be a part of this change and show you how to self-advocate for yourself when it comes to talking about self-advocating for yourself. So there again, this is just my picture. We can go to the next slide. So this guy says, I want people to be more understanding. People judge by what they see. They look for physical disabilities. Oftentimes, there is not a physical disability, but you are still very, very sick. Now, I like to promote our own. We have a sickle cell warrior down in Southern California who just released a documentary. It's called You Look Fine. His name is Jay Snow. And if you guys get a chance, I want you to go and look at that documentary. It's absolutely amazing. He just won the Slam Dance Film Festival in Hollywood a couple of weeks ago. And it is absolutely amazing where he has documented his life over a period of time and how he's treated when he goes into hospital, and he's a man. And he's treated like a drug seeker, and he's in excruciating pain when he goes in. But he's documented all this, and he's put it into like an 1.5-hour documentary that's absolutely fantastic. So if you get a chance, please go and look at it. So this is going to be interactive. I really want to get some feedback from the group and find out exactly, what does self-advocacy mean to you? You have to have some idea if you have some type of disease or an ailment that's an assiduous process. It's going on all the time in your life. So you have to know how to self-advocate. Can I get anyone to tell me what self-advocacy means to you? Okay. So,
my name is okay. My name is Marlene Ross. I'm also a sickle cell warrior myself. Self-advocacy means to me speaking up for my rights, speaking up for my health, physically, mentally, whether it's spiritually, but letting individuals know how I feel and what type of care to provide to me when they don't listen or speak up. Also, to reach out to a superior if they're not following my orders. So that's what self-advocacy is for me. Not also speaking up for myself, but also speaking up for other warriors too,
I love that.
in other situations.
Yes.
So, yes.
Absolutely great, Marlene. First of all, I have to say that out of my several years of dealing with sickle cell patients and warriors, you guys are some of the strongest human beings on this earth. And I do, I appreciate your resilience. I appreciate you helping one another, because it is a disease state that is completely underrepresented, and the divide of the gap in the resources at this particular disease state is just so vast and so wide that we have to continue to help others as well. So thanks for adding that. I had someone else that wanted to chime in. Yes.
I believe self-advocacy is pretty much in itself states to be able to communicate about who you are and what you're feeling and what your needs are, and making it clear and concise, and it's difficult when you're dealing with the medical professionals and you have a condition that they don't necessarily understand. So you have to be steadfast in representing yourself.
That's right, Nadina. Absolutely. And you just said something that's very important. You have to be steadfast and advocate for yourself, even to healthcare providers who you think that should be well-read and the experts on this disease state, and they still do not know enough about the disease state to actually treat you sometimes. So sometimes you have to guide them to the treatments that you need. You have to guide them to the things and the resources that you need to support yourself. So that's very well put, Nadina. Very, very well put.
I'm just a person living with the trait. I don't have disease.
Yes, but you have a history of a son that had the disease, right? And it's passed away. So God bless his soul, and thanks for continuing to advocate for us and your whole family. We'll go to the next, right? So advocating for yourself. Self-advocacy requires that you make the most of your current abilities and that you understand the unpredictability and the variability of your health journey. So with that being said, the operative word here that stands out to me is unpredictability. It is very unpredicted of what you're going through as a warrior, as a sickle cell patient, because each and every sickle cell patient goes through different experiences in life. They experience the pain differently. They have the vaso-occlusive crisis are completely different than other warriors have them. And as I started off by telling you the different types of sickle cell disease there is, that shows you that the experience is completely different. So it's unpredictable how it's going to manifest itself in your body. So you have to know how to advocate for yourself when you get into these crises. So you have to have questions prepared already. You have to have another advocate that is willing to go and be an advocate for you at the hospital, emergency rooms when you do that. So these are the 4 pillars that we're going to pretty much cover in the next 30 minutes. Together, we'll talk about navigating the healthcare system, building your confidence, standing by your truth, and establishing relationship. Navigating the healthcare system. A little bit of preparation can go a long way toward creating a more seamless and positive experience at your appointments. Gather important documents and prepare a list of questions for your doctor, which I just said. Now, how many warriors do I have in the room currently? All right, so in you guys' experience, have you written down the questions that you have ready for the doctors when you go into the emergency room? Have you done some of these things? Have you gathered important documents and have them in a ready-to-go situation when you have to go for a vaso-occlusive crisis?
For me, I don't have set questions until a little after treatment, until I can further know what is going on more so. Sometimes when you go in, it's not always a sickle cell crisis. Like my most recent stay. Back in January, around my birthday, I went in for a procedure, what I thought was going to be a procedure to remove gallstones.
Yes.
And when I got there, they did the procedure, which ended up happening twice because the first time was unsuccessful. And then by the third day, I'm in there recovering just from a procedure 2 times. Like I mentioned, I get told now you have to get your gallbladder removed. So now I'm in there longer, now getting a surgery done.
Yeah.
When I went in, I could tell it wasn't sickle cell pain. So I didn't have set questions yet because I knew something was going on with my stomach per se. But until they did more further tests, x-rays, MRIs and stuff, then I was able to gather more questions and then present to the doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
That goes to the previous slide that we were talking about, unpredictability, right?
Yes.
You had no idea that you were going to have to go in for a gallbladder
surgery.
extraction or whatever. It's So the whole lifespan of sickle cell disease is unpredictable.
Very.
So what I want you to do in the future is I want you to start writing down those questions every time you go in and have a list of them, and have those prepared, because you may go in for a crisis and some of those questions may not be relevant, but some may be relevant. Yeah. So continue to run a list of those. Can I get your experience?
Yes, so I am a breast cancer survivor.
Okay,
and
congratulations.
Thank you. And when I first started going to my appointments, I had a really good friend say, Yolanda, you need to write down questions that you want to ask, because when you get in there, you might not remember. And had she not told me that, it was a lot of things that kind of went over my head.
Yes.
But when we went in for our visit and she was trying to downplay my diagnosis, my good friend stepped in and says, can you explain that to her again? But had I not had those questions written down, because it went right over my head. And sometimes you forget.
Absolutely.
Especially dealing with pain too.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it's the same with myself. I mean, I've been in medicine most of my life, right? And I go into a provider or to a doctor's appointment, and all of the things I had in my head ready to talk to this doctor about, he throws a curveball at me and tells me other things. Those things fly right out of my head. I completely forget what I have prepared to ask this guy. But if I had them written down, it wouldn't be a problem, correct? So that's what I would like for my warriors to continue to do. Continue to write these questions down. And as you get answers to some of the questions, write those answers down that one provider gave you, because the next provider may give you a different answer. So finding the right doctor and going to the emergency room, references, specialists, other providers, going to the emergency room, prepare with your hematologist, use electronic records, and bring identification. So basically, all this is really saying is that you need to prepare and be ready to go and talk to these different specialists, because some of the questions you may have for a hematologist may be different from the questions you have for your primary care provider, something like that. Yes?
Navigating the healthcare system, especially at the ED, always realize that the people who know the best about your body is yourself. So you want to be cognizant of, even though they may have a bunch of degrees in education or whatnot, nobody knows your body better than you. So an expert of your body is yourself. It doesn't matter how smart they come off, but part of advocacy is understanding that you have that power to say yes or no to whatever they're trying to say. And always, always, always look for second or third opinion, because the first person may not know everything about everything.
That's an excellent point. And I'd like to piggyback a little off of that. He's absolutely right. No one knows your body better than yourself. However, I think that, when you get into these crises and we get really sick, you're so sick you really don't pay attention sometimes to what's going on to your body. But if you can continue to pay attention to, what are my triggers? What is making me sick? What is making, what is making me have this particular crisis? Is it the air pollution? Is it, my environment? Is it the stress? What is it? And once you begin to learn that, you begin to learn your body better. So that's an excellent point. Yes, Nadine.
I was just going to piggyback off what he said, and that I truly believe, and this is what I state, this is my philosophy. I'm living in this skin.
That's right.
So I'm the one that knows best about what's going on with me, and it's unfortunate that you can convey that, but people don't necessarily, the medical professionals don't necessarily recognize that because they have all these degrees and what have you.
Right.
It's I'm living in this skin. This is what I need. This is what I know. So
Yeah, they can be a little jaded by their education, right? I mean, they can think, hey, I'm the professional, but at the end of the day, as he stated, no one knows your body better than yourself. Just a second. Ed, you had something? Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. Everything you put in your body, regardless of whether you have sickle cell or some other disease, what you ingest in your body is definitely a trigger to better health or worse health. So by all means.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of what he said. Had I not got a second opinion, I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
The first organization had one plan that they wanted to do. And my auntie who preceded me in her cancer journey, she actually got 3 opinions, but I got a second opinion. And I did my treatment at UCSF, and they did the opposite of what the first organization wanted to do. And they told me, they said, you wouldn't be here if you just went with that treatment, because I'm a triple negative. And I'll talk about that a little later, what that means. But it just means that it's more prone to come back somewhere else. And the treatment, the first medication they gave me wasn't working. And had I done that, they wouldn't have known it, because they were trying to give me a lumpectomy first. But what the UCSF did, they was like, nah, we're going to shrink it down first because we need to know how much is in there.
Yes.
But so they knew if the medication was working or not. If I would have did the other way, they would have known, because they would have taken it. So anyway, I'm happy with the importance of getting a second opinion, You
know how many times I have heard that success story, that if I didn't have that second opinion, that I may not be here talking to you today? More than I can count and remember. So that's a pearl that we should all walk away with. If you aren't completely satisfied and completely happy with that first opinion, it's your choice to go get in a second opinion. It doesn't matter whether that physician is mad at you or not for leaving and going to get a second opinion. It's your body. It's your choice. So by all means, going to get that second opinion. I usually don't give my health issues when I'm giving lectures and talk, but I will tell you, I had heart surgery about 12 years ago, and I went to get a second opinion from a heart surgeon, and I wouldn't be standing in front of you today if I hadn't done that. So by all means, get that second opinion if you aren't satisfied, completely satisfied with what you've heard and you're given at first. All right, reflection. How do you prepare for pain crises and sickle cell emergencies? What aspects of your routine are most helpful? So this is something that we can only really get from warriors. So we're going to refer back to you again. How do you prepare, Marlene?
Preparing for me looks like knowing my triggers, like you mentioned before.
Yes.
And having an emergency bag ready for when I know I need to go to the emergency room. I don't have kids per se, but I have a fur baby, so making sure she has somewhere to go when I do get sick. Calling family, letting them also know, hey, having a sickle cell crisis, I'm headed to the emergency room. That looks like preparation to me. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Yes, Antoine. Yes.
I wanted to ask this question really quickly to Nina first before I did. Nina, do you remember how Kareem would prepare for this? Because I had a conversation with him prior to this. Do you remember at all? Okay. So I had a conversation with my brother who died in 2013.
Right. I remember.
About this, in one of his two things that he had, because at that time we still had, on your cell phone you have priority people that you can speed dial.
Right.
So
right.
on his phone he did have priority people on speed dial, so he
Okay.
could tap if he needed to.
Yes.
He was able to at least work through the pain enough to think about that portion. So making sure that if you have, what he told me is any tool that he had that he spent most of his time paying attention to, which obviously at that space for him in 2013 was his phone.
Yeah.
He would have a way for people to be set up for initial calls. So whether it was going to a contact list and being able to do that, or just on his phone, immediately being able to press a button and then going to specific people that he could press and speed dial for whenever he needed needed either potential transportation, or he just needed to let people know, hey, look, I got this situation happening.
Absolutely.
So that was one of my brother's modes of preparation.
And that's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one. You definitely need to have help on speed dial. Especially with sickle cell disease, because you never know when crisis is going to strike and how hard it's going to strike. It may be so bad. I've seen it so bad for some sickle cell patients when they're barely able to dial a phone.
Yeah.
So if you just hit a button, say, hey, I need help. I need you over here. Send a ride. I need to get to the hospital right away.
Yeah.
You need to have all of that prepared. I mean, it's just a matter of preparation for life.
Yeah.
And that's the life that you have to live.
And I think the other thing I wanted to add, and I'm not totally sure who goes through this, and I know that my brother was able to, he got to a point where it happened so often for him that he understood when things would tingle or when things would potentially trigger a thought process. And I remember him telling me that as soon as he felt something that potentially could happen, whether it was going to happen that day or not, anything abnormal, he would surround himself with somebody that could probably get him somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good. It was great planning. Great planning. All right. Well, all right. Building your confidence. Begin planning for conversations with your doctor by keeping in mind what a successful conversation looks like for you. We kind of talked about that already. To help build your confidence in having productive conversations, keep track of your symptoms and medicines. Bring a buddy and know your audience. So I think we kind of covered keep track of your symptoms and medicines, correct? Bring a buddy if you can, or have someone prepared on speed dial to come and advocate for you. And then the very last one, know your audience. Sometimes we don't know our audience until we get there. So our audience are the healthcare providers, the whole office. If it's a new environment, if it's a new emergency room that you're going to, it's going to be unpredictable again. So you never really know. However, if you have a hematologist or if you have a primary care provider that you see on a regular basis, you kind of know who that audience is. You know who the office staff is, and they should know you. If they don't, get to know them and let them get to know you, because it does help when you get into these crises. All right, standing by your truth. You know your truth and what it is like to live your life with sickle cell disease. You have the right to be heard and to find a doctor who will listen. When advocating for your needs, identify doctors who are active listeners. If you feel unheard, don't hesitate to find a new doctor. We talked about that. Don't let doctors invalidate your experience. He put it point blank. You know your body better than anyone else. Do not let them invalidate the fact that you're in pain because you don't look like you're in pain. Connect with other healthcare staff. That helps, because if you connect with other healthcare staff, I've noticed that if some healthcare staff are nonchalant about your visit to the doctor, to the hospital, you may find one or two people who can identify with what you're going through. They may have a family member who has sickle cell. They may have a loved one who has sickle cell, and they understand that just because you look fine, you're not fine. So definitely connect with other healthcare staff when available. Is there anything else on this slide you guys want to cover? I think we covered most of it. Yeah, absolutely.
I actually wanted to ask a question.
Please.
That was prior. I mean, I'm in a position without, I have the trait.
Right.
But I'm 40, I'm about to be 43 years old. So I'm thinking about colonoscopies.
Okay.
And I'm realizing, because I had a situation, I'm just curious to know people's ways to build confidence to be able to think outside the structure. What I've noticed about myself when I go to the doctor, I don't always have these conversations, so to speak.
Okay.
So when I go to him, the stuff that goes over my head, a lot of times is because I'm fearful that I'm just trained to not have a confidence when I speak to my doctor in general. So when I go in there and I talk to him, he's like, "Hey, what do you want to talk about?" I freeze.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Got it.
So I can only imagine potentially people that are getting into the space of sickle cell warriors that are just now understanding their situation and how often it could potentially happen for them to have crises, are dealing with when they don't necessarily, or they're not conditioned to have conversations with a doctor or physician constantly. So how, like Marlene, if you, like, since you've had so many conversations, like, has that trained you to be more confident to speak with them? And how will we help, like, the ones that don't have the same opportunities to converse as much as you do with physicians?
Honestly, it starts at home. My mom, long story short, but my aunt raised me, so that's my mom. But she taught me at a young age, you have sickle cell, but these doctors, they read from books. They don't live in your body. So you, even though they may tell you you can do this or you can't do that, at the end of the day, you're making the decision. Like, I was told not to fly long distances. I've traveled so many places. I was told not to get in a pool, but I learned my triggers. And then sorry, I'm losing train of thought. What was your question? How to advocate?
You know, like, in the space of that, like, people that might not have been to the hospital as much may not necessarily, people that potentially are scared, they may have like a notebook, they may not necessarily have a notebook, but they're just, they don't have the ability to stand up to their doctor. Knowing that they don't need to, but it's just a trigger, because you and I, we're just bystanders. We're not physicians, like Kimble had talked about. So our conversation is never going to be medical.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So to go back to that. So I learned from my mom. She always taught me to, like you mentioned, you live in this condition, you know your body. So even though a doctor may tell you something, just yet again, always get second advice, get a second opinion. I also learned through advocacy, other warriors, other doctors in general, going to seminars like this, being around my people.
That's right.
Just standing up. I learned from a young age, these are my triggers. This is my body. This is my health at the end of the day. So I need to speak up for myself. And that's what actually really made me stronger to speak up for myself, because I was like, if I don't advocate for myself, or if I don't have someone to advocate for me, which sometimes happens, we go to the hospital and a family member can't come up there or a friend can't come up there. And regardless of how much pain you're in, you need to be able to speak up for yourself, because even though a doctor may say this is what's going on with you and this is your healthcare plan, I think we should go this direction. And if you don't approve of that, you need to be able to say, hey, this is what I want. This is my healthcare.
Everybody's making mention of educating. So would you also consider self-advocacy as increasing practice? Because it seems like me and other people in my position that have these moments of freeze need to practice these conversations potentially more often.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So something I'll leave you with on that note, first of all, is that never, ever back down from challenging your doctor. Talk to your doctor and let them know what's going on. Let them know what you don't understand. Let them know that what went over your head. Could you break that down a little to me? Because at the end of the day, the doctors in the room are not necessarily the smartest one in the room.
Yeah.
They are the ones that have been fortunate to have the opportunity to go to med school to practice, right? And I've seen many warriors that are much smarter than the doctors in the room because they're able to listen to that. They're able to retain that information and then process it at the same time and then throw those questions back out to the doctor and let them know, hey, look, I don't understand what you just said. Could you break that down to us? Yeah. And at the end of the day, again, they are practicing medicine. Yeah. They are not necessarily the professional or the expert, as everybody likes to say. There are not that many experts out there. They have to practice for many years before they become an expert. Sure. So never back down of challenging your doctor and saying, oh, you know what? I don't really understand how that's going to work in my body, or I don't understand what you mean by that, or I don't understand the process that I'm going to go to. I need you to explain that to me again and again until I do understand. And it does take practice to do that. So you can practice that at home, like Marlene said. You can practice that with your mentors or whoever your advocacies, your advocate people are. Yeah. You can and it's like I said, it's an assiduous process. It's something you have to do over and over and over in life until you get to a point where you're able to, have these one-on-one conversations about your health. And you will get to that point, after a while, because as he said, you know your body better than anyone else. Yes. Yep. All right. What qualities do you look for in a doctor? So we can be real short on this. And I think Marlene had already mentioned some of the qualities, but you can say them again.
Honestly, I just look for someone who listens. That was what would be my main concern. Someone who listens and not just gives advice, but also
someone who seems to be invested in you, right?
Yes.
And not distant. And you don't have to have sickle cell to answer that question at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open-minded?
Open-minded. Absolutely open-minded.
That's what I was going to say. Open-minded and effective listening.
And in fact, that's right.
People don't. It's effective listening.
Yes.
That's right.
That's a big issue. And open-minded, yes, absolutely.
Let's go to the next one.
I got off.
All right. Is this the last one? I think.
Yeah, I was going to say something.
All right. Those I think are just kind of QR codes and stuff, but yeah. So establishing the relationship. Each conversation with your doctor is a chance to form a relationship. It's important to recognize that not every conversation will go the same way. And we talked about that. With different doctors, it's going to go a different way. But these conversations can help you to build your healthcare team. Conversations that end well, follow up on next steps. Conversations that don't end well, reflect on why and try to improve outcomes in future conversations. And that goes to you. It takes practice to continue to do that. So after, it's just like a ball game or an important meeting. You have to have a debriefing with yourself. You have to have a debriefing with your advocacy team. Hey, you know what? That was really crazy that went on in the doctor's office. And could you explain to me? Because it kind of went over my head of what he was saying. And why did that just happen? What just happened to me? Have these conversations with yourself and your advocacy team every time you leave a situation. And it's going to help that next situation. I promise it will. Even when you're done everything right, things still may not be right. Correct? And that's just in life, period. I mean, you can practice, you do everything you think is supposed to go right. Sometimes it still doesn't go right. When that's the case, there are people you can lean on and actions you can take. Find a new doctor who is a better fit. Contact a patient advocate and find out your options. Reach out to a support network or fellow warriors and advocates. Apply what you've learned from this lesson to be a strong advocate for yourself. Yes, Needy.
I just want to say, and you have no fear, you can fire your doctor.
Absolutely, you can.
I've done it.
Absolutely, I have too. Yes.
When I find my primary care provider, I go online to see what they write in their blogs.
Yeah.
But I don't align it because some of them are like, I'm just going to give this person medications because they're like, I'm focused on like maybe cancer treatment, but I'm like, I just want a primary care provider that can discuss stuff. And some are saying like holistic wellness, and I look them up on LinkedIn and everywhere else that they are and see the reviews before I choose them, because there are a couple times where I like go there once and I'm like, okay, this person is not listening. They're making me guilt trip by not.
Yes.
Use whatever that they give me. And I think just learning from just having like older grandparents using the doctors is also like, you have a lot of control, because the education system teaches us to like listen to people who have higher education degrees, but actually you have so much power. Like what they say isn't golden, and like you ultimately have the decision or not to like eat that prescription that they assign you, and even like go to the Walgreens to pick it up. So yeah, you have a lot more control.
Yeah, and I just want to say about, you said prescriptions, but when you get them prescriptions and you read the side effects.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. But yeah. But what I take away from Jasmine, right? Is your name? Christian, I'm sorry. What I take away from what she just said, very, very important. Do your research. I don't care if it's, would you say LinkedIn, or if it's Instagram, or if it's Google. You have to Google these doctors. You have to find out if these doctors are strictly westernized medicine, if they're easternized medicine, or if they combine their medicine practices. If they have some easternized practices that they are open-minded to do, instead of just willingly putting you on medication, right? So it is extremely important to do your research, and you have to continue to do your research. When you come back from the doctor and you're doing your debriefing, you know what? I'm going to Google his whole practice. I'm going to Google the other providers in the practice to see if that's the best provider in that practice. So you have to do your research. This slide here basically are just resources, QR codes. You can take your phone and scan. The first two definitely work. The last one with me, it is timed out for some reason, but I do have my information on the desk out in front, so you can take my business card and you have all my contact information, phone number, email address, and all that. But the Sickle Cell Disease Warrior app works. The CDC app works, despite our never mind, I won't say that. But yes, please use these QR codes. We can go to the next one. So this is my team of sickle cell liaisons throughout the nation that work for Novo Nordisk. These are my 4 teammates, and there are 5 of us. We cover the entire nation for Novo Nordisk. If you have other people in other states that you would like to see or talk to, please let me know, and I can connect you with one of the other 4 of my teammates. I think we have one last slide, basically just to thank you guys. I really appreciate you listening to my conversation and listening to my presentation. And if you have any type of resources that you think you may need that may help you, please feel free to contact me. I've got an open door policy. I answer phone calls, and emails all the time. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
I've always loved helping others. It started as a child, but after my breast cancer journey, I don't know in my mind if I was like, I don't know how much time I have, but I wanted to just volunteer and just be a part and be an advocate for everyone. I was so happy that I'm still here and I made it through my cancer journey, because a lot of people that I met along the way was angry with God. I survived a lot of people. I had survivor's guilt. And so I'm also part of an organization called ECLOC, and every year they have a rest retreat. And we were supposed to go to Atlanta this year in April, but it got canceled because of the whole ICE situation. So I was really disappointed, but I'm like, you don't have to wait till April, you can take rest now. So taking rest is not feeling guilty about wanting to rest. Like Sundays is my day, right? I work for the airline, I'm on medical leave right now, but what ended up happening is I work on Sundays, and so I used to feel guilty about that because, you know, we're talking about, oh, you're not supposed to work on, I think it's either Saturday or Sunday, but just taking rest and not feeling bad about it. You know, my mom was like, I don't feel like getting up. I said, well, then don't get up, just rest. But it's important that we rejuvenate, right? Because if we don't, we're not going to be good for other people. We're not going to show up 100%. So for me, rest, getting that massage twice a month, thanks to the organization that I'm a part of. You know, we get a stipend, and I use that to get my massaging and just taking deep breaths and meditating. And even though I fall asleep, I don't know if any of you have that experience, but when I try to meditate, I fall asleep. So I don't think that's meditating. So if y'all got any advice on how I can not fall asleep when I'm meditating, but yeah, just not feeling guilty of resting.
Thank you for that. And to uplift the mental health and wellness of Black women, oftentimes we can be caregivers, professionals, community leaders, advocates. And so that can oftentimes lead to burnout, grief, financial pressure, systemic racism, and healthcare inequities, right? And so we want to bring into the space the concept of the strong Black woman schema and how that presents itself. Oftentimes that could look like having to do it all and needing to do it all because you feel that you have to do it all because you probably have been doing it all, right? And so it's getting what we talked about earlier, like advocacy, right? Learning how to advocate for ourselves, creating toolkits. Toolkits when it comes to recognizing like who's in our, I think you talked about knowing, having a plan, right? When you are feeling like you need to call on someone to support, you have their numbers in your phone. I know with us in our organization, we like to provide healing spaces for our sisters, and we call them sister circles using the sister circle model. And so what that looks like is we create spaces where there's other Black women around and we pour into each other. And we allow others to pour into us, and in that space we can be vulnerable. We have an initiative, which is our Sisters Mentally Mobilized initiative, which Sister Yolanda is a part of, an alum, and what it teaches us and what it has taught, and you can speak to it too. The big premise behind it is the advocacy component. So it's the advocacy and the mental health. We recognize that mental health is interconnected in all the things that we do. And so we took the mental health concept as well as advocacy and put it together. And so we wanted our sisters to know how to not only recognize when they are facing burnout, but they know how to recognize when another sister is in distress. And that sister can also help to point her into the services and resources that the community provides. So, yeah, so did you want to add to your experience in being in Upper Estimate? Question?
Can we take a quick moment? We are having a technical difficulty with the mic. Can you give us a couple minutes to try to reconnect? My apologies, everyone. Just want to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I would like to share something with you all, and then afterwards you can ask any questions. We do have some more information. We want to make sure that we're all interactive and everyone is engaged. I know you don't want to just listen to us talk. So mental wellness for girls and women, strength through the storm. So my name is Yolanda Thomas, and much of my life's work has been about supporting others, especially women and families, through some of life's most difficult transitions. I am currently pursuing my master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and I work in community wellness, supporting families, mothers, and individuals navigating life challenges. But today, I'm not just here as a student, a professional, or even a community advocate. I'm here as a survivor. I am here as a woman who learned firsthand that mental wellness is just as important as physical healing. That's very important. The moment everything changed. Several years ago, I received a diagnosis that no woman ever expects to hear. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. In that moment, life as I knew it changed. When we think about cancer, we often focus on the medical journey, the treatments, the appointments, the surgeries, the medication, and those things that are really difficult. But what people don't talk about enough is the mental and emotional journey that comes along with it. There are questions that start running through your mind. I know mine was, will I survive this? What will happen to my family? Will my life ever feel normal again? For many women, the diagnosis itself is traumatic, but what comes after that can be just as challenging. The hidden battle of dealing with any type of sicknesses or illness. During treatment, you're focused on fighting to live. You're surrounded by doctors, nurses, treatments, and procedures. Everyone is focused on saving your body. But what about the things that you are fighting silently in your mind? Does anybody ever talk to you about that? There's fear, there's anxiety, there can even be grief, and there's uncertainty. For women living with chronic illnesses, or anyone, whether it's cancer, sickle cell diseases, or another health condition, the emotional weight can be heavy. Many girls and women feel like they have to be strong for everyone else. I've heard that my entire life. You Black, you have to be strong. We become caregivers, we become nurturers, we become the ones holding families together. But sometimes, what do? We forget we also need care.
Right.
When the treatment ended, something happened in my journey that many survivors experience but rarely talk about it. When my treatment ended and I was told I was in remission, everyone around me celebrated. They said, you made it, you're strong, you beat breast cancer. But inside, I felt something very different. I felt lost. During treatment, there was a plan, there were appointments, there were doctors watching over me. But once treatment ended, I had to figure out how I was going to live again. And that's when the depression hit. Many people assume the hardest part is that diagnosis, but for me, it was not. The hardest part was learning how to transition back into life after being a survivor. Seeking help is strength. Eventually, I realized something important. Just like I needed doctors to help me heal my body, I needed support to help heal my mind. I began receiving counseling through the Berkeley Cancer Support Community, and that support helped me process the trauma, the fear, and the emotional weight I had been carrying. That experience changed my life. It also helped me toward the path I am on today, pursuing my degree in marriage and family therapy so I can help others navigate their healing journeys. It's so important. You know, a lot of times we just focus on, okay, you know, getting the medication or getting the treatment, but we rarely forget to address the emotional side of things. Mental wellness is not a luxury, it is a necessity. You know, stress is a silent killer if you don't address it. I've been saying it a lot recently with young people having heart attacks and strokes and, you know, it's really hard because we don't talk about it. Growing up, no one never talked to me about the emotional side of things, only physical. So what mental wellness means for girls and women? Well, mental wellness means giving ourselves permission to rest, ask for help, feel our emotions, set boundaries, something that I found out through therapy. She says, Yolanda, you don't set any boundaries, and I never even thought about it. So it's important that we set boundaries. Speak about our struggles without shame. It's okay to share your story. I don't care how it is or what it is or how it turned out, please share your story because there's someone else who may be facing that same battle. The true strength is not pretending everything is okay. True strength is saying, I need support. I need help. And allowing others to walk with you through that journey. I'm almost done. So a message to women living with chronic illness. To the women and girls who are here who may be living with sickle cell disease, caring for someone who is, or managing another health condition, I want you to know this. Your illness does not define your worth. Your pain does not diminish your purpose. And your story matters. Sometimes our greatest challenges become the very thing that connects us to others and allow us to serve our community. Just here today, by being educated in what I've learned, I now want to volunteer and be a part of the organization. And it's all about education. No one ever even really discussed about sickle cell. I do remember when I was younger, the doctor told me, he said, always remember you have the sickle cell trait. And it wasn't until the Nordisk guy, he reminded me, he says, you have to not make sure you don't have a child with somebody who actually have it because you will end up having a kid that has sickle cell. So these types of things are important to be educated and to network. The power of the community. Events like this health fair reminds us that no one should have to walk through illness alone. Healing happens in community when we share our stories, when we support each other, when we remove the stigma around mental health, and when we remind each other that it's okay not to be okay sometimes. So as I close, this one thing I hope you take away from today is this one thing. Taking care of your mental health is not a weakness. It's an act of courage. It's an act of self-love. And it is an essential part of your healing process. Thank you for allowing us to share our story with you today. And thank you for being part of a community that believes in wellness, resilience, and hope. Thank you.
And so what I want to do is talk to you about your story. So Thank you so much for sharing it. For you, because I want to connect us to the advocacy piece as well as what the rest and the mental well-being and your toolkit look like. What did your mental wellness toolkit look like?
You know, honestly, I know this may sound cliche, but I relied a lot on faith. And when I was going through a lot of pain and things I didn't understand, I just asked God for help. I asked him for direction because the people that were closest to me hadn't been through breast cancer. I didn't even want to say anything because I felt like I didn't want to kind of seem like I wanted a pity party or people feeling sorry for me. So at first, you guys, I didn't want to tell anybody. And it took a good friend to say, Yolanda, that's wrong with the Black community. We always want to keep things secret, but it's okay to ask for help because there's other people that'll support you. So me just getting second opinions, getting resources and making my own sound decision because people have different opinions on different types of treatments. Like nutritionally, I had 3 different nutritionists tell me 3 different things. And I'm like, this is so overwhelming. So I had to figure out and learn my own body, learn my own biases, and really learn what works for me. And that's kind of what my toolkit looked like. And just kind of taking care of myself. I had to, do you know people still ask to borrow money from me when I was going through my cancer journey? You know, seriously, damn what I'm going through. Hell, I didn't know if I was going to live or not. But can I borrow some money? So just learning how to put me first. And I honestly, on all transparency, it wasn't until then I learned how to love myself. I didn't know what that looked like before. So, yeah.
Just to kind of, because I've had an interesting journey with that. The question is maybe you could speak to it, is why is it that thoughtful people do that? I mean, just humanity in general, the thoughtful ones, always seem to hide those things because we don't want to put pressure on anybody else or we want to stand. It's not necessarily, we understand it's not a strength thing all the time, but it's more like, but why is it that thoughtful people do that? Like, do you have any insight to that? you yourself being a thoughtful person, wanting to help everybody. That's why you hid, even though you know it's true strength to ask for help. But it's like, because like sometimes, like for me personally, it's like I ask for help and people let me down, or they can't help me enough. So it's like I'm putting pressures on people that I don't really want to do that to. So it's like, you know, should I say anything or should I just keep doing what I'm doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can speak to this too. You actually answered your own question. Most of my life, and it started from my childhood, me helping out somebody. I was in elementary school, and the mom couldn't give her daughter a party for whatever reason, and the girl was crying and sad. So I don't advise anybody to do this. So I went to my babysitter house, and I remember she had some pennies. I took those pennies and took it to the mom, and I said, here, and this is a true story. I said, have your daughter's party. So she took the pennies and went and got Kool-Aid, chips, and hot dogs. But let me tell you, when my mom and them found out what happened, I got the whooping of my life, and I have never taken anything since. And so I say that to say, we help, we give unapologetically to others. But when you need help, most of the time what happens, they're not there for you. They're not as supportive. And so when that happens, for me, I kind of shut down and don't want to ask nobody for help. I'm ashamed to ask because I feel like they're going to let me down, you know. But today, I don't feel that way. If I need something, I had to ask her for something. I didn't want to, but I did. And it wasn't even an issue, you know. And I shouldn't have had to even ask her because I've really sold into a lot of people throughout my life. But that, for me, that's why I just was taught it's a sign of weakness if you ask for help. You know, but that's not it at all, because we're all not good at everything. You know, you may be stronger in this area or in this area. So the areas where I'm weak at, I ask for help. You know, I mirror off of you what your strength is. Like you guys know a lot about sickle cell. I don't know anything about it. I'm learning. So I'm going to come to him and ask for help. I'm going to come to you. I'm going to go to her and ask for guidance. So that's just what I think. What do you think?
You know, it's a really great question. Because one of the things that comes to mind for me is it's going back to advocacy, right? I remember you mentioned, again, Brother Antoine, earlier about how do you talk to a doctor how do you feel comfortable with talking to a doctor if you've been conditioned to think that they're always right? And so my thought process is get used to being uncomfortable. And so you mentioned, Sister Marlene as well, that it started for you when you were young, right? Where your mom was oftentimes, she told you that, listen, this is what your situation is and your circumstances, so you need to learn how to speak up early. Yeah. I can say as a mom to two little ones, when I go to their doctor's appointments, sometimes the doctors get agitated with me, but they are the patient. I'm there to be their advocate, and I tell my children that. So I'm like, when the doctor is talking, and then oftentimes they're looking at me because I'm their parent, and I'm looking at my kid, and I'm saying, how do you feel about your body? You know, what else do you feel? You know, what else is going on that you want to talk to your doctor about? Because this is your time, and this is your moment to talk to the doctor about your body. Right. And so I always redirect it to them when I'm at their appointments. But to answer your question, to bring it back to a full circle, is that how do you feel when you need help and you don't ask for help? Oftentimes it's uncomfortable, at least for me. And so what I've learned is that it's both. If I don't ask for help, I'm going to be uncomfortable. If I do ask for help, I'm going to be uncomfortable. And if both situations are uncomfortable, then I might as well ask for help. That's what I've learned to do, really. Yeah. Because it was uncomfortable for me. And so as I got older, because for me growing up, when I went to the doctor's office, it wasn't the same. Oftentimes my mom would be, speaking for me. And so I had to learn how to recognize how to advocate for myself and how to teach my children how to advocate for themselves as well. Double-edged sword, because now as a parent, they're like, well, and what do you mean? And I'm just like, okay, right? But it's getting used to being uncomfortable.
What
are your thoughts?
Not asking for help in certain situations, because to your point, like just taking my personal experience, like I know exactly when to ask for help.
Okay.
Because like when I know my weaknesses and when I need help, everybody knows I'm the first one to say like, hey, this is what's going on. So when I need help. But in an area where I'm like super strong, like I just went through an accident, so I tore my quadricep off my knee and everything. And straight out of the hospital, like I felt very good because it's like, okay, this is my problem, this is my issue, my body. I don't really need help.
Okay.
But I do, you know what I mean? Like I should have asked for more help. I should have taken more time for myself, all these other things. But it's because I know what I can do and what my strengths are, and it's right in my wheelhouse. So that's more of the question of like, how do you ask for help in something that you're actually really, really strong in? And you really don't feel like you need help, but you do really need help because, you know, I was on one leg. Like I really should have, you know, I should have been as strong as I was and like trying to crutch around. And like, you know, and literally a week after the surgery, I was already coaching again. And I probably should have taken more time off. You know, luckily my body recovers the way that it does and I have no ramifications. But to others who may not have those types of advantages, like how do they know, like it's okay to ask for help even in something that you're really, really strong in? You know,
that's a good question.
The issue.
Can I touch on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I also recently went through a surgery, gallbladder surgery, and I was not prepared. It was unexpected. But for those that are strong with asking for help, I think what it is to have a schedule, call those people, hey, I have this situated, I can do this for myself, but I can use a little extra help with meal prep, or I can use a grocery delivery. Are you available to do that for me? Doing things like that, I say that would help. Just
be the same. I just won't. And I have a lot of limitations. And so as a woman, I was taught growing up, you're supposed to clean, cook, you know, keep your body clean and all that. Well, I have limitations on cleaning, and so I get help. You have no idea how that makes me feel, you know, but because somebody was like, well, just take one room at a time. I don't want to take one room at a time. I want my whole house clean at the same time. And I have to ask for help, you know, and it bothered me for so long, but now I'm okay. I'll call. Can you put me on calendar? Can you help? But it was really hard, and I still struggle with it because as a young woman, as a young Black woman, that's how we were raised and how I was taught. You're supposed to keep your house clean, keep yourself up, and I do what I can, but I hurt. I do. It bothers me, and so I have just decided, you know what? What I can do, I will. I embrace that. And what I can't, I delegate and ask for help. You know, so it may take some time, but yeah, my hip hurt, you know, ankle hurt. It just be all bad. And it makes me feel bad, you know, that I personally know I should be able to do these things. I'm not that old, you know, so I do understand.
To just mention about something that you had talked about, I too diagnosed with breast cancer actually last year, so I'm kind of going through my process, but you're talking about asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process, but you started the first step because you recognize that you have this, you know what I'm saying, this kind of like, it's a weakness, but it's not a weakness, because I'm like that as well. Right. You know, you're strong and things like that, but then you kind of need help in a particular area. You're not exactly sure how to ask it, who to ask. But I learned how to do it, and this is your first step, is that you're recognizing it. And what I have found is that, you know, you might have like a circle of people or, you know, close, and you can let them know, first of all, I pray about everything. My faith is what has gotten me through all of this. And there were like a circle of people, and I would ask that circle of people, and then you'll have some people will say, oh, I can help you, and you have other people that won't say anything. And the people that don't say anything, don't trip off of that. The people that say, oh yeah, I can help you, go to that person. But that's what I wanted to share with you, that it's a process. And so just the fact that you're even acknowledging it, and then, with whatever you're kind of going through now, then you can kind of go back and ask for help. Ask the doctors, ask the nurses, or people that might be in your circle, and it's okay. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. To touch on that a little bit, just real quick. I think that's very important in your community. For when I had my surgery, like I mentioned, it was unexpected, and my family, they have busy schedules, busy lives. But when I needed that extra support, my community was there. My friends showed up. They came over. They cooked, brought groceries. So that extended family, make sure you reach out to them to let them know what's going on with you. Because sometimes your close circle, they might not be there or may not be available to help out. So that other part of your community, reach out to them as well, because there's people out there that do care about you.
Thank you so much for mentioning that.
Yeah.
I will touch on that, but go.
For me personally, I think this might lead us into a certain direction that might segue.
I can turn it back around. It's okay.
Okay.
You're good.
Cool.
You're good. I'm good.
Because interestingly, I'm not saying that I have expertise or anything, but I'm noticing a lot of things. I'm noticing that people that have mentioned that they're in relaxed states, the way they sit. I'm noticing a lot of people that are talking about being pent up. Their feet are behind the chair. They're crossed in a position. I'm looking at Jeraine, and she's comfortable. Sitting in the most comfortable position possible. Other people are kind of like crossed. It seems like everybody's trying to refix their posture. But I bring it up simply because it's come to light for me, because I and my wife, we're new parents. So we're starting to try to understand how we've got this process in our brain as to what tools we were actually given when we were younger, opposed to what tools we realize that we need to give our children. And it takes me to, because we've got a young lady right now that's in college, and we've got a young lady here that's an entrepreneur. And what I've noticed, and I'm saying that I know a whole lot about Jasmine, but Marlene's talked about, hey, I've got this situation, and since I was young, I'm being taught a practice.
Right.
So she's much comfortable talking to a doctor than I am. And I'm 42 years old, right? So I'm just curious to know, like, when we talk about these situations and these steps and these process people are in, like Jasmine, do you feel like you have the tools to even handle a conversation? Like, do you feel like people in your community of 20-year-olds or younger even have the tools to handle a conversation like this?
I think so, but it also depends. Me personally, I grew up with public health. My dad's a pharmacist, my mom was a nurse, so I grew up in that hospital healthcare world. So I knew a lot more than other kids did. And I think that has given me much more of a step up compared to my peers. And it really depends on maybe just the education that they get. Like, in public health for school, it might be a little different for a business or a policy major or something like that. So that's never happened.
So in the process of like that thought, it seems as though like a lot of these the uncomfortability is more because most of us in this room have been conditioned, not taught in a certain way. So I haven't had tons of conversations with the doctor. So I'm conditioned to be not afraid of him, but just not really engaged in a relationship.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Jeraine is like, hey, I'm in a position where my lifestyle has been results driven. So that stresses me the heck out. And what I'm noticing by everybody's conversation about why, it seems to stem from you having an expectation as a human being that there's a result that needs to come from that. Like I shouldn't be scared to tell my mom or tell anybody else anything because I have this expectation that they'll fail as a human being helping me. That means I'm worried about them having a result for me. And that's where I feel like this for all of the adults that are struggling through this, predominantly in the Black community, the Asian community as well. Like I have this conversation with my wife, and I've had this conversation with Kristen. Their family dynamics are so strict that they're almost at 30, 40 years old, still trying to figure out how to think for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that preconditioning over periods of time is what we have to break down. So when you guys go through that process and you have these folks that come to you, how do we break that so that we can help reteach? Because if they're conditioned for 35, 40 years, that first step that she's talking about is going to take another 10 years to get to. So in the space of that, like, where do we, starting from, the start is the small step, like, but how do we get to making sure that people feel safe to want to take a step forward?
That's good. Did you want to piggyback on that?
Yeah. I honestly think it all starts with communication and putting yourself in rooms like this. At a young age, like I mentioned, my mom told me as a sickle cell warrior, you live with this condition, you need to communicate for yourself. So just like you mentioned, as a parent, you look at your kids when you take them to their doctor's appointments, even though the doctor's looking at you.
Right.
She did the same thing to me. I think it needs to start young. You need to teach your kids, this is your body. And even though the doctor is talking to me right now, I need you to pay attention. I need you to listen. I need you to take in all this information, learn your triggers, and then also be presented in rooms like this. At a young age, I was able to speak to other sickle cell patients, mothers that were having kids, and I'm young myself. Like I wasn't even in my 20s yet. And I'm going to hospitals, speaking to parents that are getting ready to have kids with sickle cell and telling them this is my life story. And now I'm getting ready to go off to college. I'm getting ready to start my own business, but to teach individuals, even though I have this condition, I still can live a normal life. I just have to monitor my movement more so. But putting yourself in rooms like this is really where it needs to start. Getting this knowledge, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks for sharing. Go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to just piggyback on what you said, because of course, starting out really young is very important. But I was thinking of more like this space is amazing to have, because it's like we're kind of preparing for battle. So it's like when we come out of this room, we might not have a good experience with a healthcare professional, and that should be okay, because then we're having the tools and basically putting on the armor to be ready for that next battle. Okay, I know how to deal with this healthcare professional. I know when I need to change, and maybe I need to get a new doctor, or I need to educate this doctor now and maybe still continue that relationship. So I really like what you said, like this having this space is like you are drawing up these blueprints to advocate for yourself better.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I would definitely, what I would say is, yes, obviously the younger we start off, the better it is. And unfortunately, a lot of us didn't have that privilege or opportunity because of the era in which, it changes. Each generation becomes a little softer. Even now, my parents look at me, how I'm raising my children, and they look and just, shake their head, right? And I'm just like, listen, they're going to be okay because they speak up for themselves, right? But for us that we didn't have that opportunity or luxury, again, I'll go back to our Sisters Mentally Mobilized Advocacy Training Program. It's Black women coming together in a safe space and creating a safe space for us to let our hair down, for us to talk about things unapologetically that we go through, that we went through as children. And we're pouring into each other, and we're saying, well, sis, I'll go. You have a doctor's appointment on Tuesday. What time? Let me see if I can take off of work and go with you. Right. And having again, that dialogue. How do we communicate with our doctors? I have my phone out, and I'm Googling stuff, and I'll tell the doctor, layman's terms, please.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're speaking of, well, I didn't go to medical school, but if you put it where the ghost be good, I can get what you're saying, right? But I have my phone out and I'm Googling. So it's, again, getting in spaces with like-minded individuals, oftentimes, or folks that just that you can be vulnerable with without having to over-explain. Right? Is that what you gathered too from like
Yes.
Sisters Mentally Mobilized?
Yes.
Yes, right. And so that's a part of it, right? Is being able to recognize when we have to inform ourselves, educate ourselves, unlearn things that we had learned, that it's difficult. And again, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable all the time. And I mean, that's how I was able to, and now that I'm a parent, right, I look at it and I'm just like, whoo, if I don't learn how to speak up and advocate for myself, then what am I showing my children? Right? Exactly. Does anyone?
That's actually something really big. Is like, for me, growing up, I was very shy. And what I did, that's how I got into acting. I said, you know what is something I can do that will get me out there, open so I won't be so shy. I got myself into acting. I enrolled myself into acting, and automatically I was like, okay, now I got to speak in front of an audience, just like public speaking. I'm like, okay. So getting out there, being in those rooms, just putting yourself in those type of environments, that's a start.
Absolutely. We also, we do, one of our initiatives is our Gen Z Speaks Wellness initiative, which also we have culturally affirming healing spaces for our youth. And within our youth initiative, we have a lot of intergenerational community-led conversations because we realize we all have missing puzzles, we all carry puzzles or pieces to the puzzle, right? Each generation carries little pieces to the puzzle. And so us getting together to dialogue with each other, not speaking at the youth, but speaking to the youth and realizing they're here with they're experts in being a youth, right, of today. So they have access to information that we never had growing up. And so they have something to offer as well. And recognizing that our seasoned brothers and sisters have something to offer, and so does our youth. And so how do we heal in community? Knowing how to tackle challenges internally, both and externally. And I wanted you to add as well.
Actually, you and her kind of said exactly what I was thinking together. So I don't have anything to add. Yeah, because you guys said exactly what I was thinking.
Okay, and you mentioned something that was, you said you knew how to speak up for yourself, but you didn't, it was one of those things where you couldn't recognize when you needed to ask for help?
Yeah, because I play college football. I'm an athlete developer. It's my injury, so I know my body.
Okay.
But when I look at it, it would have been nice to maybe take 2 more days off, or who knows how much better I'd be recovered if I had just not been maybe stubborn or maybe so strong. I don't know computers very well, so I'm gonna ask whoever, even somebody on the street, hey, you know how to do this? Because I'm not afraid. I've never been afraid to ask for help when I know my weaknesses, but my strengths and my things that I'm really, really strong at, those are the hardest ones for me to ask for help because I'm so strong in them. Who can do it better than me? It's almost that mentality. Who can do this better than me because I'm the expert in this. So who's better than me at this? But when you're hurt or you're injured or you're in a vulnerable state, because sometimes you get put into a corner, so it makes you latch onto that idea even more, But I think one of the things that I've heard recently is who takes care of the heroes? When the heroes have their day is done, who takes care of the heroes, And that's what we really have to keep in mind when we're doing advocacy or whatever we're doing. It's we are a hero, but someone does need to take care of us eventually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I had to do? I don't know if this is the same experience for other people. I had to get out of Yolanda way. I had to get out of my ego and my pride, I had to let it get out the way. That I was just sitting here thinking how I was able to navigate asking, for help. Like you said, I'm used to people coming to me for help, and that makes me feel like I'm important, like I'm giving back. So here I am. You got people coming to you. How are you going to turn around and ask for help? But I had to get out of my own way to realize that. So I don't know if that'll help, but that's what.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the bit of it, right? Kind of like what Marlene said, write a list down or have like a scheduled check-in. And even in the check-in, you'll be like, yeah, maybe, hey, I just had surgery. I'm feeling a little woozy. Well, yeah, someone will just randomly say like, yeah, well, maybe you should take some more time off. You're strong, but it'll because sometimes when you're in the painting, you can't really see the image, right?
Absolutely.
But everybody else can see it, and they can see some of the things that are good about it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So sometimes it requires us also asking the folks closest to us, right? There was another question back here. I remember it. Okay. Her hands are coming up. Oh.
I had to read because I've been a professional for a long time, and getting to the point where letting people know it's okay to ask questions. Before you go to because I was the young man about going to the doctor or with the kids and things like that. Us letting each other know that it's okay to ask questions. Right. And then before you go to these appointments, write things down. Write things down that you feel within your heart. And that when you get to that person or when you get to that appointment, it'll be easier. It'll come out. So that's what I just.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Well, did you have anything else to add?
I did not have anything else to add.
Well, if there's not anything else to add, we thank you all for being participants and also interacting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reach out for help, know how to pivot, understand that it's not a sign of failure, it's actually a sign of growth when you realize how to talk to individuals who can help you make the necessary change in your life. So again, I'm just grateful for this opportunity to be with you all. And as mentioned, I'm with Genetics Biotherapeutics. I'm one of the patient and community educators. We do gene therapy, specifically designed for sickle cell patients. I have information out in the foyer, so you can definitely come by if you would like to get some information. And again, thank you all for having me here this afternoon.
Great thing about this environment that we're in is we're all ethnically based. We've got what was it? Was Latinx or Hispanic? Which one would you like? Latinx. We got Latinx in the building. We got African Americans, Chinese Americans as well. And understandably, if you know anything about all three of these cultures, we've all grown up with a lack of tools because of how we've been preconditioned as a people, regardless of which sect you're in, and how we've been trained to actually grow up. So we all share a unified thought process as older individuals and how we want to mature ourselves with growth and then helping the people that are coming after us in that sense. So one thing I wanted to make sure to tend to you guys is, if you guys don't understand ego, go to ChatGPT, go to Google, look it up, understand what it means. Because unfortunately, in our day and age, at this point in time, it's not your strong suit. It's not your power anymore. Your ego is no longer a power to you. Your vulnerability is a power. And with what we do as an organization to support our sickle cell warriors, they've been vulnerable for as long as we can imagine in respect to their lifespans. And they're going to continue to be in that space, unfortunately. And we have to be mindful that if they're strong enough to go through everything that they deal with, that people even with the trait like me don't have to deal with, that's the inspiration that we need to take from this presentation and session today. So let your ego aside or push it aside or try to dissolve it as best you possibly can. Keep your vulnerability at the forefront and allow your minds to open. And I thank you guys very much for joining us. I'm signing off for Sickle Cell Anemia Awareness of San Francisco. Thank you all and have a great day.